Greetings, Autobots, and welcome back to Autobot ASMR Reads The Meg. Tonight we're going to be doing the third chapter of this, but I'm actually just after a day at the pool today, so I'm a little bit exhausted, but I have my water on standby, so there might be some extra sounds for you folks to enjoy. So let's not dilly or dally. Let's get started. So, if I recall correctly, we are just after Jonas got shown up at his own talk at the Scripps Institute. Yes, here we are. Maggie. The limousine raced along the Coronado Peninsula. Jonas sat across the aisle from his wife, his back to the driver. Maggie was seated next to Bud Harris, who was concluding a business transaction on his cell phone. He watched as his former roommate at Penn State University absent-mindedly fingered his ponytail like a schoolgirl before glancing at Maggie. Maggie Taylor looked very much at home on the wide leather seat, one tan, slender leg slipping out from the side slit of her dress, a glass of champagne balanced in her fingertips. Jonas allowed his mind to wander, imagining her in a bikini, tanning herself on his millionaire friend's yacht. You used to be afraid of the sun. What? You're tan. You used to say you were afraid of skin cancer. She stared at him. I never said that. Besides, it looks good on camera. What about your sister's melanoma? Don't start with me, Jonas. I'm not in the mood. This is probably the biggest night of my career, and I had to practically drag you out of that lecture hall. You've known about this dinner for a month, and look at you. Why the hell are you wearing that piece of shit suit? I should have tossed that in the Goodwill bin years ago. Hey, lighten up. This was my biggest book signing event, and you came prancing down the aisle like Madonna. Whoa, guys, time out. Bud powered off his cell phone. Everybody take a deep breath and let's all just calm down. Maggie, this was a big night for Jonas too. Maybe we should have waited in the limo. A big night? Are you serious? Bud, you know how long I've waited for this opportunity, how hard I had to work while I watched my husband flush his career down the toilet. Do you know how many times I've had to refinance the house, live off of credit cards, all because Professor Taylor here insisted on studying dead sharks for a living? Now it's my turn, and if he doesn't want to be here, that's fine by me. Let him wait in the limo. You can be my escort tonight. At least you're dressed for it. Oh no, keep me out of this, Bud said, reaching for his drink. Maggie frowned and looked out the window, the tension hanging in the air. After a few long minutes, Bud broke the silence. Hey, I spoke with Henderson. He thinks you're a shoo-in for the award. This could really be the turning point in your career, Maggie. Assuming you win. Maggie turned to face him, managing to avoid looking at her husband. I'll win, she said defiantly. I know I'll win. Now, pour me another drink. Bud obediently filled Maggie's glass, then offered the bottle to Jonas. Jonas shook his head and sat back in his seat, staring absently out the window at the passing scenery, wondering who the blonde stranger was seated across from him. Jonas Taylor had met Maggie Cobbs 11 years earlier at the Massachusetts during his deep-sea pilot training in the Woods Hole Oceanographic Institute. Maggie had been in her senior year at Boston University, majoring in journalism. The petite blonde had at one time vigorously pursued a modelling career, but lacked the required height. Upon entering college, she had reset her sights on making it as a broadcast journalist. Maggie had read about Jonas Taylor and his adventures aboard the Alvin submersible. She knew the former football or college football star was a celebrity in his own right, and found him physically attractive. Under the guise of doing an article for the university press, she approached the naval commander for an exclusive interview. Jonas Taylor was amazed that anyone like Maggie Cobbs would be interested in deep sea diving. His naval career had left him little time for a social life, and when the beautiful blonde showed signs of flirting, Jonas asked her out on a date. The following week, he invited Maggie to the Galapagos Islands during her last spring break. She accompanied him on one of his dives in the Alvin submersible, after which things got hot and heavy. Oh dear. Maggie was impressed by the influence Jonas wielded among his Navy peers and loved the excitement and adventure associated with ocean exploration. 10 months later, they married. The couple moved to San Diego, where Jonas began training for a top-secret naval mission in the Western Pacific. For the small-town girl from New Jersey, California, proved to be the land of opportunity. With Jonas's help, Maggie was hired as a correspondent at an ABC flagship station. Within 3 years, she branched out into investigative journalism. And then disaster struck. Jonas had been training to pilot one of the Navy's deep-sea submersibles into the Mariana Trench. On his fourth dive in 35,000 feet of water, the veteran pilot had panicked, surfacing the sub too quickly. Pipes had burst, causing pressurization problems that led to the deaths of 2 scientists on board. Jonas had survived, barely, only to learn his commanding officers blamed him for the incident. The official report called it aberrations of the deep, and the incident ended Jonas's career in the Navy. Worse, it permanently scarred his psyche. 3 months in a mental hospital were followed by a dishonourable discharge and a severe bout of depression. A year of private psychiatric sessions eventually helped refocus the goal-oriented former naval officer, who decided to pursue advanced degrees in paleobiology. Jonas would earn his doctorate degree, eventually writing a book on the subject of extinction among deep-water species. Without Jonas's naval income, Maggie's lifestyle quickly changed. The San Diego position turned out to be a dead-end job, and her life was suddenly thrust into that of the mundane. Then, by chance, Jonas ran into Bud Harris, his former roommate at Penn State University. Harris had recently inherited his father's shipping business in San Diego. He and Jonas took in a few football games, but the paleobiologist was constantly doing research, leaving Maggie to entertain her husband's new best friend. Bud used his father's connections to get Maggie part-time. Apologies, folks. I've just paused for a week yet, just to take a sip of water. Ow! I just smacked my hand against smacked it against my TV. Get some water sounds for you guys. Good stuff. Right. Where were we, folks? Here we are. Work as a writer for the San Diego Register. In turn, Maggie convinced her editor that Bud's shipping business would make an interesting article for the Sunday magazine. It was the excuse she needed to follow the bachelor millionaire around the harbour, with trips to his facilities in Long Beach, San Francisco, and Honolulu. She interviewed him on his yacht, sat in onboard meetings, took a ride on his hovercraft, and spent many an afternoon learning how to sail. The article she wrote became the Register's cover story and was syndicated across North America. Bud Harris's charter business boomed. Not one to forget a favour, Bud helped Maggie secure a weekend anchor spot with San Diego television station, doing 2-minute fillers for the 10 o'clock news. It wasn't long before she was promoted, producing weekly features on California and the West Coast. While Jonas Taylor floundered as an author, Maggie Taylor was becoming a local celebrity. Floundered. Could be a fish pun. Bud climbed out the limo, extending a hand to Maggie. Maybe I ought to get an award. What do you think? Executive producer? Not on your life, she replied, handing her glass to the chauffeur. The alcohol had settled her down a bit. She smiled at Bud as they ascended the stairs of the Hotel de Coronado, Jonas lagging behind. If they start giving you awards, there won't be any left for me. They passed through the main entrance beneath a gold banner announcing the 15th Annual San Diego Media Awards. 3 enormous crystal chandeliers hung from the vaulted wooden ceiling of the Crown Ballroom. A band played softly in the corner, while well-heeled guests picked at hors d'oeuvres and sipped drinks, wandering among tables draped with white and gold tablecloths. Jonas suddenly felt underdressed. Maggie had told him about the gala a month ago, but had never mentioned it was a black tie event. He recognised a few television people in the crowd. Provincial stars from the local news, Harold Ray, the 54-year-old co-anchor of Channel 9 Action News at 10, smiled broadly as he said hello to Maggie. Ray had helped secure network funding for Maggie's special about the effects of offshore oil drilling on whale migrations along the California coast, and now the piece was one of the 3 competing top honours in the environmental issues documentary category. You may just take home the eagle tonight, Mags, Ray said, his eyes wandering over her tantalising cleavage. What makes you so sure? She cooed back. For one thing, I'm married to one of the judges. Harold winked and then turned to Bud. This must be Jonas. Harold Ray, Bud Harris, friend of the family, Bud replied, shaking his hand. Bud's my executive producer, Maggie said, smiling. She glanced at Jonas. This is Jonas. Sorry, big guy. Honest mistake. Say, didn't we do a piece on you a couple of years ago? Something about dinosaur bones and the Salton Sea? You may have. There were a lot of news people out there. It was an unusual find. Excuse me, Jonas, Maggie interrupted. I'm just dying for a drink. Would you mind? Bud pointed a finger in the air. Gin and tonic for me, JT. Jonas looked at Harold Ray. Oh, accidentally skipped a page there. Nothing for me, dog. I'm a presenter tonight. One more drink and I'll start making the news instead of reporting it. Jonas forced a polite smile and then made his escape to the bar. The air was humid in the windowless ballroom and Jonas's wool jacket felt prickly and hot. He asked for a beer, a glass of champagne and a gin and tonic. The bartender pulled a bottle of Carta Blanca out of the ice. Jonas cooled his forehead with it and took a long draught. He looked back at Maggie, who was still laughing with Bud and Harold. Another beer, sir? Jonas looked at his bottle, suddenly realising he had emptied it. Give me one of those, he said, pointing at the gin. Me too, a voice said behind him. With a lime. Jonas turned. It was the balding man from the book signing and lecture. He looked at Jonas, peering over his wire-rimmed bifocals with the same tight grin on his face. Funny coincidence, meeting you here. Jonas regarded him suspiciously. Did you follow me? Hell no, the man replied, scooping up a handful of almonds from the bar. He gestured vaguely to the room, or at the room. I'm in the media, he offered his hand. David Adishak, Science Journal. Jonas ignored it. You're playing a dangerous game, Mr. Adishak. How so? What is it you want? The man finished a mouthful of almonds, washing it down with a swig of his drink. My source told me you made the Mariana Trench dives. What he didn't tell me was what you were looking for. Who's your source? Former Navy guy, just like you. Adishak slipped another almond in his mouth, chewing it noisily like a stick of gum. Funny thing though, I interviewed the fellow about it 4 years ago. I couldn't get a word out of him. Then last week he calls out of the blue, says, if I want to know what happened, I ought to talk to you. Did I say something wrong, Doc? Jonas's brown eyes blazed at the shorter man. Be careful. I wouldn't want to see you choking your nuts. He turned, locating Maggie and Bud at the table. From the other side of the room, a pair of dark Asian eyes followed Jonas Taylor as he made his way across the ballroom, watching as he took a seat next to the blonde. 4 hours and half a dozen drinks later, Jonas found himself staring at the golden eagle now perched on the white tablecloth. A TV camera clutched in its claws. Maggie's whale film had beaten out a Discovery Channel project on the Farallon Islands and a Greenpeace documentary on the Japanese whaling industry. His wife's acceptance speech had largely been a passionate save the whales plea. Her concern for the cetacean's fate had inspired her to make the film, or so she said. Jonas wondered if he was the only one in the room who didn't believe a word she was saying. Bud had passed out cigars. Harold Ray made a toast. Fred Henderson stopped by to offer his congratulations, adding that if he wasn't careful, Maggie would get snapped up by a major station in Los Angeles. Maggie feigned disinterest. Jonas knew she'd heard the rumours. She had started many of them herself. Here we are. They were all dancing now. Maggie had taken... Oh, have I skipped a page by accident? No? Apologies, folks. Let's get back on track. They were all dancing now. Maggie had taken Bud's hand and led him onto the floor, knowing Jonas wouldn't mind. How could he? He didn't like to dance. Jonas sat alone at the table, chewing the ice from his glass and trying to remember how many gins he had downed in just the last few hours. He had felt tired, had a slight headache, and all signs pointed to a long evening still ahead. He got up and walked to the bar. Harold Ray was there, picking up a bottle of wine and a pair of glasses. So how was Baya, Professor? Jonas wondered if the man was drunk. Baya? The cruise. What cruise? He handed his glass to the bartender, nodding for a refill. Ray laughed. I warned her 3 days ago it was no vacation. Look at you, you've already forgotten. Baya, you mean last week? Then it hit him. The business trip to San Francisco, the tan, Bud Harris. Too many margaritas, Professor? Jonas stared for a long moment at the glass in his hand, then scanned the dance floor for his wife. The band was playing crazy. The lights dimmed low, the couples dancing close. He located Maggie and Bud, clinging together like a pair of drunks. Bud's hands were caressing her back, working their way down. Jonas watched as his wife repositioned his hand to her buttocks, kissing him on the lips. Blood rushed into Jonas's face, the veins in his neck throbbing. He slammed his drink down and then made his way awkwardly across the dance floor. Oblivious, Maggie and Bud continued to grind their groins against one another, lost in their own world. Jonas tapped Bud on the shoulder. "Excuse me, pal, but I think that's my wife's ass in your hand." Maggie and Bud stopped dancing, a look of apprehension coming over the millionaire's face. "Easy, big guy. I was only..." The right cross was a glancing blow, but still had enough force to send Bud crashing into another couple, all three sprawling to the dance floor. The band stopped playing. The lights came up. Maggie looked at Jonas, aghast. "Are you crazy?" Jonas rubbed his sore knuckles. "Do me a favour, Maggie. Next time you take a cruise to Bahia, don't come back." He turned and left the dance floor, the alcohol spinning the room as he strode toward the exit. Jonas stepped out at the front entrance and ripped off his tie. A uniformed valet asked him for his parking stub. "I don't have a car." "Would you like a taxi then?" "He doesn't need one. I'm his ride." Terry Tanaka stepped out the door behind him. "Oh man, when it rains it pours. What is it you want, Tracy?" "It's Terry, and we need to talk." "You talk. I need a puke." He staggered down the block, searching for a trash can, settling for the back of a dumpster. Terry turned her back as he heaved his dinner. She searched her purse and tossed a pack of gum to him when he finished. "Now can we talk?" "Look, Trixie." "Terry." Jonas sat on the curb and combed his fingers through his hair. His head was throbbing. "What is it you want?" "Following you here. It wasn't my idea. My father sent me." Jonas glanced back at her. "Massao's an old friend. Find me on Monday. We'll talk." "This isn't exactly a good time." "Ever hear of Jonas?" "Is that your sister?" "No, wait, it's some kind of deep ROV, isn't it?" "Unmanned Nautical Informational Submersible, Jonas. Our institute holds the patents. They're made for deep water assignments. Their hull's able to withstand 19,000 pounds per square inch of pressure." "Oh, I'm happy for you. Now I need to find a cab and a bottle of aspirin." She removed a manila envelope from her purse and shoved it in his face. "Look at this." He opened the envelope and pulled out a black and white photograph taken underwater. The image was of a Jonas laying on its side, its hull crushed almost beyond recognition. Jonas looked back at the woman. "Where was this drone deployed?" "The Mariana Trench." Well, that was certainly eventful, folks. I gotta say, I love how this book takes its time to get to the shark. You know, it, like I said in the previous video, it really does start off strong, but then it introduces us to Jonas. Then we get to meet other characters, his dynamic, as well as the way his character struggles. Because in the movie, they played the submersible accident. That was a part of Jonas's character, but here it's a lot more of the core focus. Just take another swig of water there. Lovely. But I hope you guys enjoyed this latest chapter of The Meg. Oh, I completely lost my train of thought there. I was it's in my own little world. But leave a like if you enjoyed, and leave a comment if you want to see more Meg videos, or even if you have suggestions for new videos that you would like to see later down the line. There's a lot more videos coming in the next few weeks, folks, so stay tuned. This is Autobot ASMR, signing off. Autobots, transform and roll out to bed till all are one.